So I'll record.
I thought
now we're good.
I thought you wanted to say something off the record, Andre.
No. Now it's being properly recorded.
Just pause the recording here.
Hang on.
Now it is recorded. Now it is being recorded. So, all right, we can get started. So we were just chatting. We need to create a new Zoom link. I'll create it, update the calendar event, and make everybody a co-host. Sarah cannot attend. That's fine. So my first point, I wanted to get a bit of a status update on the move of GitLab project from master to main. I know that there's a separate effort to make the default branch on GitLab by default for customers main, not master. But I don't know, this is slated to later in the year, like in the summer somewhere. But I noticed that there's an issue. There's kind of like I feel like it's stalled a little bit. I wanted to hear your thoughts, Sean.
No, it's all good. Okay, so I'll link the epic.
Mm-hmm.
Just grab the epic. Okay, so had you asked me this morning, I would have said everything's going great. However, we seem to run into a problem. So I'm just linking the epic there. So there's actually three parts, right? So the first part is changing the default branch for new projects on GitLab SaaS. That has been done. So we did it last week in staging, and then as of Monday, it's been switched on GitLab SaaS. And then there is an issue in progress. In fact, I think it's basically done. Nick was working on to do a migration or a feature flag. I'm not sure which direction he chose, but to do it for self-hosted instances as part of 14.0. So that's basically ready. And then the third part is, which has no due date on it at the moment, which is to the much more difficult job of changing the changing master to main on the GitLab project itself, because of all the associated projects. And so we don't actually, I don't think that's actually on the critical path though. I think because we have, for customers, the new projects will be main. However, there was an issue has come up this morning. Not quite sure exactly what the problem is yet. Zagayan contacted me, and he thinks so. Eagle's currently investigating it, and what Zagayan thinks is there's associated projects with the GitLab with any project, for example, a wiki, and I think there's other ones as well that I'm not really aware of, but a wiki. So it's actually a separate project. It's kind of an invisible project, and he thinks what's happening is it's being created with master, even though the main project is main. So so investigating, is this what's actually happening, and then what can be done about it. So it's kind of not actually breaking anything. It broke some tests because of the way he ran them, but it's not actually breaking anything specifically. It's just that the data is a bit weird, right? Like we shouldn't really have that situation set up. So investigating that, as we speak, and then depending on what the outcome of that investigation is, we may or may not release the code for the self-hosted in 14.0.
Okay. No, that makes sense. That provides a good overview. So from that sense, I was mostly worried that with Daniel's departure that things would kind of, but I see that you're the DRI for the move of the project. So that's good. If anything,
yeah. Look, Daniel did a lot, and he did a lot just before he left, actually, which kind of he involved infrastructure, and so I really appreciated what he did.
So from my understanding, the case that you mentioned, I think from the top of my mind, there's at least 3 cases where we do like this hidden repository. One is the wiki, the other is the snippets, and the other would be a security projects, the hidden MRs, confidential MRs functionality. So at least those 3 things should probably be checked in this investigation you're looking into. Okay. I'm going to write down here about wiki, snippets, and confidential MRs. From my knowledge.
Yeah, I think. So it's not confirmed that this is actually happening yet. We're just trying to work it out. But that's Zagayan's thoughts. He also was wondering whether we might have a problem with import-export, which I don't believe was tested. which yeah, that could also be. So that's the latest. I'll keep you on the loop. I'll ping you on the issue if you like. Once it's actually up and running.
Just let me know if you need help coordinating anything.
Sure.
Not just on front end. If you need to have some efforts and you need another pair of hands, just loop me in and I can give you a hand.
Awesome, Andre. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Okay, that's it. Next.
Okay, so I've got an idea. Okay, so this is actually something I've struggled with since I came into this role. Is people are constantly pinging me and saying, "I think this belongs to source code," and does it? Sometimes especially when I first started, I didn't really know. So we have this page, which is features for source code are listed here, which is this features by group page, which as I understand, that's basically the canonical reference of what features belong to what group. Some of those, most of those actually link directly to a handbook page and they're pretty clear. Some of them are a bit vague, like, Git is fast, for example. But I think this is not a bad place to start. It's also a bit confusing the way that the feature in this particular page, I don't know what other people think, is that, we kind of duplicate all the features that are in core over into premium. We could just say core plus, plus these ones. And it's a bit hard to read in this format, but anyway, that's fine. And then I guess we don't have any ultimate features in source code, seems like. Okay. No one's disagreeing. Okay, cool. Okay, so still, what does that actually mean? What belongs to, for example, source code backend, right? So, we mostly work on endpoints and things like that. And so there's been an effort to go through the code and actually in the Rails Ruby code and nominate, I think it's APIs and background processes and some services, but it's not completely completed as to who they belong to. So feature category, source code management. So that's actually fairly recent, I think, and that's quite useful. And so the third kind of piece of information here is that if we scroll down to, here's an example of internal allowed endpoint. This is something that Robert put together. And I think it's a really great resource because what we don't have, and there's pros and cons for this, what we don't have at GitLab is we don't have technical documentation. So we have generic technical documentation, for example, how the security system works, how we do testing or whatever, but we don't have specific technical documentation on what does this endpoint actually do and how does it do it. And so the problem with creating that type of documentation is it goes out of date quickly. However, it is a very useful resource, and I would certainly be, quite happy to at least list the endpoints on a page, and and then if engineers wanted to expand it, I think that would be wonderful. And the reasons for doing this are, so for example, someone who's the engineering manager can easily determine what actually belongs to the group or to the features for the group. If we bring a new person into the team, it'll be an awesome resource for them to awesome resource for them to have. And then even within the team itself, source code is actually so big that I have 14 members, but not all of them, with the exception of one of them, not all of them actually know the whole product. They know different parts and pieces, and so that's something I've linked cross-skilling existing team members. I'm going through an effort to try and develop the team members by assigning them, bits of work from the areas they haven't, had much experience in. That's of course a long process, but okay, so that's kind of my thought, and I thought it might go somewhere under that. The kind of the page that just kind of has all the technical contributor documentation in it. We could link off there perhaps. Andre, you've added a comment about code.
Yes,
code
Sean. So I've seen a lot of conversation about this in the past. This is particularly useful when addressing an incident and the code that's causing it, but you don't know who owns it. There's been conversation in the past to do sort of a mapping of ownership of this. So this is great. Thank you for raising this. My biggest concern here is that if we do this on the Ruby code, attached to the Ruby code, there's a lot of hidden a lot of features that won't be able to be documented on the Ruby because they're built in Vue, for example.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah.
Building something like this attached to any of them, like whether it's Vue or Ruby, would always leave the other one outside of the scope. But we can always build the same implementation across multiple languages, so we can then have a way to, I don't know, easily search the code for owners of that. But it does remind me this related feature that we have, which is the code owners that we're not leveraging a lot. Now, code owners do have their limitations, so they don't, you can't specify specific methods inside a file. So it's mostly per file, per path. And I'm trying, I'm trying to find out the MR where Carrie added the groups of code owners in code review. Because our plan is to start using that as an approval rule on the GitLab project, but I cannot find it. So
that's okay. I think that's actually an awesome idea because we're dog fooding as well,
right?
And yeah, I mean if we've got the functionality, let's try and use it.
Especially because it then plays into the code review, right? And when you're code reviewing something, and if you have an approval, for now the approval is optional, but the idea is to, if this works well, we'll definitely be able to make that more permanent, more mandatory.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that will actually help with speeding up reviews, right? Because we can route them to people in who might know about them,
right,
rather than just kind of like the random way it does it now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, awesome. And so and then this, I guess also the second part was this MR that Robert's done, where it's actually quite, what if we click on the MR, it's like what does the endpoint do? Where is it defined? How does it, in this particular endpoint, it connects to Gitly? What does it connect to in Gitly? And so this information can, of course, easily go out of date. So that's pretty valuable to an engineer working on it. It can go out of date. And I thought the way we might be able to handle the going out of date is, we have already this kind of like badge section where we say released in GitLab, 12.8 or whatever. And so we could possibly use something similar. I don't know what you think, Amy, about and say, this part of the documentation is valid, is known to be valid as of 14.0. So if you're on 14.4 and you're looking at it, then you have to kind of take it with a grain of salt and possibly do an MR if you find out it's wrong.
Yeah, you can just put a paragraph for documentation, especially in the development section of the docs, which is sort of a free-for-all. Just put a paragraph up at the top.
Okay. Well, great.
Now, as far as the code owner stuff, Andre, I want to make sure that I mention the technical writing team has run into that problem too. If you look at the docs, we had to solve it by front matter, but there isn't a way to hook that front matter back into code owners. We couldn't wait for an engineering solution.
Right. So basically what you do, you have a field on the front matter of each page that tells who the owner is?
Yep, specifies the stage and the group.
Oh yeah, per stage and group, okay.
But that could be done with a script, right? We could, as part of the build for documentation, we could read code owners and then spit something out. No?
Who this we? We have no engineer.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think that's the part of
it's the royal we. Okay, one could.
Yeah, one could in the hypothetical world.
Sure.
Yeah, we know.
But
so we put in front matter.
No, if we go baby steps, right, and even if it's not in granular detail, right, at least gives you a general starting point. I think that would be valuable. No?
Yes.
No, it totally is. I'm just smiling and thinking about the 200 pages of documentation that we have not been able to identify owners for.
Right.
Yeah.
They're not obvious.
Nope.
Because you might have multiple groups. That's the thing. For example, the merge request page. So for example, the merge request page is one of those that, and we have thought of doing this per URL where you'd be mapping URLs to owners. But I don't know if you've seen the meta issue that we created for the merge request page architecture. It's basically like a ton of boxes that identify all the owners of all the parts of the page. And it's kind of
I haven't seen that one.
yeah.
This is going to be shut laptop and walk away, isn't it?
It's still loading. This is my computer being slow. So we have all of these things, and each one of these boxes might have a different owner. Most of them are code review. But for example, if you go to 8, this is code review. This one, the 9 is verify. So as you can see, this granularity is only possible at the code level. And we are able to do that by code owners because we can specify a path. And basically what we say, everything inside diffs is code review, everything inside, I don't know, the verify, the group metrics reports app, that's testing, and so on and so on. So it is complicated to get when you get to the granularity of all this, but it is useful because then you'll be quicker to identify owners and to solve them. So good stuff. I'll share the MR once I find it.
Awesome.
You can take a look.
Yeah,
but this is not, I don't want to block you from pursuing that solution. I just want to highlight that.
No, it's really great information, and I think we can use a combination. And so the note you just put about gems that can generate diagrams of classes. So that's actually a really good point also, because like if you look at the Rails documentation or any big project, they have RDocs, which is a list of all, it's automatically generate all the classes. And you can put a comment in, but even without the comment, you've still got a list of the classes and their methods. And I actually would like to. I've asked a couple of people as to why we don't have that already at GitLab. So there must be some historical reason why we've chosen not to. Maybe it's too hard to build or something. I don't know. And then the other one is so there's a gem that you can use to map the database tables back to a diagram, which is called something ERD. I've used it in the past. And I went and looked at it recently, and I noticed Kerry's a maintainer on it. so maybe we can use something like that. I mean, the database is less useful, right? It's pretty down far, but yeah. I think, who knows what's going to happen in the future? We might be suddenly hiring a lot of people. We might have reorgs, and other people might be suddenly thrown into these areas.
Yeah, take a look at that. I remember one very vividly about the state machines. And state machines, when you get really complex, knowing which state can transition to which ones, it's incredibly useful to understand. And we were talking about this recently about the context of mergeability of MRs. If we can understand the states that the merge request can be in, if we can find a way to automatically push out a diagram that documents the current state of the code, is invaluable. But I don't think anyone. So in the thing about the historical thing, that there might be a reason why we don't have it. Try to ship it, and you'll find out. If there was a very strong reason that is still valid today, because it might not be.
That's a good point. Yeah, maybe it's not still valid. Yeah. Okay, that's a good point.
Run with it.
And from the front end, like the front end's actually because the back end is we've got a bit of namespacing, but generally it's pretty much all in together, right? Whereas the front end is actually a lot more organized, right? Like the folders, kind of
componentized. Yeah. We have the apps. The view apps is one folder. Inside that app, there's the store, the components, the utilities. Yes, it's a little bit more compartmentalized, so to speak.
Which is that's handy.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay, you can take a look at the code owners file if you want to take a look at how we did it. I didn't find the MR, but I did find it. Let me go here. There's a link there to the place where we document the ownership of each path. And on the few lines above, there's the backend for merge requests. So we did it for merge request specific. That's one way to go at it, but I'll leave it up to you.
Oh, so we have a name in there.
Yes, so you name the groups. Okay. So you in code owners, you can specify a section. And basically we created a section for merge requests, and under that we have all the rules for backend things and for front end things, with the specific owners identified ahead of it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, look, the thing about code owners is our customers, some of our customers are using it in, very imaginative ways. And if we kind of engage with it more, I think that'll help us.
100%. That's kind of the reason. We want to leverage that. Also, approval rules, the more we use them, the better we understand them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. So the next one I put in case Sarah had a chance to look at this. I was just wondering if we had any updates on the hiring. I know the rec went out. I think it went on LinkedIn and everything, but I don't know do we have any candidates or anything?
They had the sourceathon the other day. Were you there, Amy? No. Sourceathon to find candidates. No, okay. Because it was at like
I can neither admit or deny. Sorry.
That's fine. It was scheduled for like 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. or something. I couldn't make it, but let's wait for Sarah to provide an update, and we can ping her on Slack.
Yeah. In any case, I mean, if a new person comes on, they will take some time to get up to speed, and they'll need our support. And then, summer's coming up. I'm planning. So just by the way, I'm planning. I haven't put it in yet, but I had planned to put it in today. I'm going to take 2 weeks off over July, and just wondering, do we necessarily inform each other, or
we can?
Okay.
I think yes. Around the summer months we usually do. So we can have a section at the start of each agenda to just announce paid time off on the upcoming weeks. So Do you have anything coming up, Sean?
Yeah, I'll take off a couple of weeks in July.
Right. So once you have that settled up, oh, nice. That sounds so good. So when you have the dates, or when it's close to the date, it doesn't have to be like super ahead in advance, but if you have something like in the next month or so, putting in the agenda would be worthwhile. Yeah,
because I guess what comes to mind is when we do the planning process,
right.
if one of us is out, then we need to somehow front load that or something.
Okay, so I just created taking the bias for action. I just created a section up there, like PTO announcements, summer months, just edit in there. And as soon as they're done, we can just remove them. But yeah, now we have a place to put them.
I'll put mine in Ninja after this. I just need to check a couple of things and I'll put it in today.
Cool. That way we always know. And that's the thing. That's another message. Like everything is up to be updated and improved. And for a process, if you think a process is complete, you're not. It's not. It's never complete. Always iterating. Sweet. Any other topics?
I have a thing that it's nothing bad. I would just prefer that it not be on the recording. It has very little to do. The engineers watching this, you're fine. It doesn't affect you.
All right. So I'll stop the recording here. Thanks everyone for watching. I'll just